Hi there, welcome to QuickSchools. We'd like to show you a new feature that we've just developed, which is specifically for districts or group schools. So in this little presentation, we'll be going over an introduction of the philosophy, a few key features, a summary, and some next steps. So first off, the QuickSchools philosophy is basically to have each school self-govern, and basically each site has its own principal, has its own set of school administrators, office managers, teachers, staff, students, and parents. So we'd like to keep each site kind of self-contained in its own little environment, even in its own little database encasement. With this new district strategy, basically what you can do is link schools together to form like sister schools, and then allow users to either switch between schools easily. You can also transfer data between schools and also share data if that's a better strategy for you. As part of this district philosophy, there is going to be a main account or an HQ site. And this is where you would have your superintendent or head of schools. You could also have a set of users who control access for the entire group or district. Typically, you don't need students in this account, but you could also designate one of your existing sister schools as the main account. So here's a chart that shows you how it works. So you'd have multiple schools as sister schools. They're all at the same level. And you could have an HQ or a main account that kind of oversees all the different schools. And again, you could have one of these schools as the main site if you want to. So the main intent of having an HQ site is basically it allows centralized administration. You can continue to have sites self-manage their IT department by managing their users and roles, or you can have a centralized IT department that manages the access rights for all schools within the group. With the district-wide features, you could have modules that function group-wide. So for example, parent messaging, which is typically a site-by-site module, you could send a message to all sites at the same time. Likewise, you may be able to configure an online forums module. So you want to have standardized online forums for all sites, and you can manage that centrally from the main account. So let's go through some key features. The first key feature is allowing users to switch schools. You can allow teachers access to specific schools. So if your group has 5 schools and you have maybe a special ed teacher that only has access to the 2 high schools within your group, you can basically set that up. So here's an example of a teacher login on the district account. So you'll notice the switch school right here, and it shows you which schools you have access to. So I could switch to the main account. So this is our main account, and I can switch back to the elementary school. Here's an example of the parent portal. So I'm logged in as Franklin Jones at the high school. And I see here that I have another student, Abel Jones, at United Elementary. And if I click here, I'm switching to the elementary school. So this is a full-featured parent portal. It works just the same way. I can click on the student record to see what's going on with the student. I have access to modules per what's been set up, and I can freely switch between schools as needed. The next feature is group-wide reporting. So one of the key features here is if you want to look at the data across your group or across your district, you can run the report creator and compare statistics between schools. So here's the report creator for our group-wide reporting. I can create a report or access one of our existing reports. When I select fields, there is a section here for schools that I can select right here. I can select all the fields that I want. Click Done. Here's my report. If I click on graph right here, I can specify the kind of graph that I want. I can report on the number of students. It really depends on the data that you're reporting on. If I click on one of these, it kind of goes into the next column. There's a breadcrumb here. So which again corresponds to the columns. If I've put grade level on the far left, for example, these are all these students by grade level for the entire district. And if I click on, let's say, second grade, it goes to the second column. So here I have all elementary students are in the second grade, and it kind of makes sense in this case. The report creator is pretty good for data exploration. The next key feature is transferring data. So if you have students that are moving from one school to another, or teachers that are moving from one school to another, instead of having to recreate the teacher record at each site, there is the ability for you to just transfer that data across. And once you transfer the data, the original data is basically a copy that resides in two different places. So each site still maintains autonomy in terms of the administration of that data. When it comes to transferring student data, under the students module, there is a district-wide search. So you could basically search for students in the entire district. There is an advanced search feature here to look for students who have left as well. But the key feature here is at any time you can click enroll for a student that's not in your site, and then enroll the student into your site and just specify the enrollment date. So instead of transferring data, we also have the ability to share data. When you share data between schools, when you make a change to a piece of that data in your site, it propagates to all the other sites. And we have full control in terms of setting up which modules you want to share, which modules you want to transfer. So just to illustrate how that works, you could have 3 sister schools in one HQ site. Each site has their own local data. Any module that you decide to keep centralized will be stored in the HQ account. Meaning that if school A changes centralized health data, that data is stored in HQ. And if school C accesses that data, it'll again access that data from the HQ site. That's why the data is always in sync. So here's a list of shareable modules. Again, you don't have to share all of them. It all depends on the data you want to share and the data you want to keep separate. Sometimes it makes sense to share, sometimes it doesn't. Code sets are basically drop-down values for various fields that you may have. Document numbers are like running numbers for your invoices, student numbers, etc. We have roles that you can keep centralized, courses, departments, and subject areas for your master scheduler, grades, standards, attendance codes, work permits. We have some new modules that are coming out: community service, counselor notes, student notes, health, intervention, and library. The next key feature is centralized access control. In addition to allowing users to switch between schools, you can also control the access of that user at specific sites. And that's done centrally from the district level. So here on the main site, under the teachers module, there's also a district-wide teachers and staff section. And this is where it'll list out all the teachers and staff at the entire group. You can basically control what sites each teacher has access to. That's all done centrally here. There's a section here called Show Roles. So you can set up roles for each site, or you can set up district-wide roles and then assign roles to the users at specific sites. So there's a module here called District Access Management, which allows you to configure access for specific sites for specific modules. So this is equivalent to going to settings, turning features on and off for a specific site and accessing this page. So this page here shows you which modules can be turned on and how to configure them. For example, here, Parent Portal, you can configure a few different elements. If I go to District Access Management, it's basically the same functionality. If I click on Configure for Enterprise, it's the same screen. The next key feature is centralized processes. One of the items here is listed here is online forums. So if you wanted to have a centralized set of online forums that are shared between sites, you can do that. And then submissions can be routed to specific sites. So you may have someone applying to site A, and then you decide to transfer this to site B. That's something that you can do. If you want to share a particular form packet across the district, if I click Configure Form Packet right here, there's a section down below. It is an advanced setting, so you've got to turn it on. So basically you can share the form with other sites. The other process that you can centralize is parent messaging. So instead of if you had 10 sites and you wanted to send out a message to all sites, you could do it centrally from the main HQ account instead of having to do it at every site one at a time. So here in the parent messaging, I'm logged into the main account. If I want to send a message to everyone in the district, there's an option here to send messages to all students in the district. So in summary, there are various levels of integration when setting up group schools, depending on the level of autonomy you want for your sites. So for something like a public school district, everything is kind of controlled from the district site, so you have full integration between sites. But you may have some cases where the sister schools work more independently, so you can decide which modules are transferable, which ones are shareable. You can decide whether to centralize your IT staff or to keep the IT at the various sites. And just leave maybe the reporting functionality or even the online forums functionality at the district level. So if you're interested in this feature, please contact our support. It is currently in private data, so it can only be enabled upon request. It does require a subscription. There's a fair amount of setup involved depending on the complexity of your configuration. So some additional fees may apply. Please talk to us if you're interested in following through with this. Some things we'll need in order to get started. We'll need to know all your sister schools. We'll need to know which account you want to designate as the HQ account. We need to set up the level of consolidation. So we have a checklist of what items you want to consolidate. We'll need to identify your shared processes and shared modules. So that pretty much ends the demo for today. Please let us know if you have any questions. Thank you.